mentoring for a varying length of time, some just 1 year, others up to 10 years. But it's always a good opportunity to kind of refresh, what the program roles and responsibilities are as a mentor, as well as, address any questions or concerns you may have before we start the new school year. So thank you for attending, and thank you for committing to another year of mentoring. So before we begin, I just want to point out that I will be doing a lot of talking, but I really want to get your feedback as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a discussion mode on our webinars just because we have found that we get too much background noise and feedback that way. However, we do want to entertain your questions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentations or concerns or anything that you would like to point out, we just ask that you ask the question in the question box, and our moderator will alert me to those questions, and I will respond to them. So to be respectful of everyone's time, I do want to get started, and when we have our other attendees, they can just hop on when they're ready. So back to school. So the Danbury Public Schools did start back on August 24th. We had an early start this week, this year, so that's worked out in our favor in terms of I have had an opportunity to run all the student lists and confirm that the students are indeed in the schools where we expect them to be, or if there's been any changes, we have been able to update all that information. I've also had the opportunity to meet with each of the schools last week to give them their rosters and to get everybody up and running. So to that end, you should expect to resume mentoring by the week of September 28th. Many of our elementary school mentors I know have already been contacted by their liaisons, so you probably will likely be starting next week. So although we had 2 full weeks to the start of the school year, we are having some disruptions in the schedule already, in that we just had Labor Day this past Monday, and this upcoming week, next week will be a short week. The schools will be closed for Rosh Hashanah on Monday, and Friday the 18th they'll be closed for Professional Development Day. So you may not start next week just because of limited time, but certainly the week after, particularly for our elementary, middle school, Avitech students, and the alternative school mentors. The 2 middle schools will be contacting you. I know Broadview Middle School is planning on doing an orientation breakfast. That date has not been communicated out to me yet, but the liaison there will be communicating that out to our Broadview mentors as soon as that information is available. And I know Rogers Park, that's on there, is in the process of contacting each of the mentors individually as well. For our mentors of Danbury High Schoolers, the process is a little bit different, so I'll quickly go over that. I know it doesn't apply to everybody, but I'll just quickly go over what to expect with that process. Mentors of students grades 10 through 12. Did meet with the liaison at the high school this week. We did pull their schedules. They have up to 2 weeks to change their schedules, so it does me and you absolutely no good to get their schedules before this week, because they are quite fluid and change frequently up until that point. But those schedules have been pulled. Ellen and I are in the process of identifying the free periods for those students, and we will be in contact with you either later today or next week, letting you know which days and times the students are available. We ask that you then let us know which day of the week that you would like to meet with your mentor. We will notify that student's guidance counselor, who will call them into their office and let them know what time to start meeting with you. And you should meet up at least for that first meeting with your student down in the Career Center, which is located in the cafeteria. That is where we will tell your student to go and the day and time that you have identified. So you should be expecting to hear from us next week. Mentors of Danbury High School freshmen. We have an orientation on Friday, the 25th at first period, which is 7:20. So we'll probably have the breakfast around 7:30 actually. And that'll be an opportunity for you to become oriented with how the mentoring works at Danbury High School and just the high school in general. It is a very big place with lots of students. We have about 3,000 pupils at Danbury High School, so it can be overwhelming for mentors to start. And you will be reunited with your mentee at this breakfast. They will have passes to attend the breakfast. And we will go over how the mentor program works at Danbury High School. And you will work with your student to identify which day and time that you will begin meeting. And we actually will have the students sign an agreement as well. Now that they're becoming young adults, we like to have them have some skin in the game in terms of their commitment to the mentoring as well. So if you're a mentor of a freshman at Danbury High School, you should have received that invitation for the breakfast on the 25th. If you did not, please email me, and I'll make sure to get that information out to you. So that's it in terms of when you can expect to start. Very quickly, I just want to give you a recap of our survey results. So at the end of each year, we survey our mentors, our liaisons, and the students. So these are the responses from some of the students that we got. So I know many times mentors will say, gee, I love mentoring, gosh, I don't know if I'm making a difference. Here's some feedback to some of those big questions that mentors always have lingering. Am I making a difference? So out of the elementary school students who responded to our survey, 100% of them liked having the mentors, 96% want to continue with their mentors, and the activities they liked the most were playing a game followed by having lunch together. And no surprise here, doing homework, schoolwork with their mentor was the least liked activity. And that's no surprise with any of those responses. But I do think this is a good time to remind mentors that although you think playing a game may not be helping them in terms of their academics or helping them succeed, it indeed is. We did get some survey feedback from our mentors saying, I don't think I'm making a difference. I'm just playing games and talking with the student, and that's not mentoring. So, some of the mentors were a little bit confused as to what their role is. So I just want to remind you that, yes, you are there to be a positive adult role model. You're there to be a support. You're there to be a friend. And, you do not need to worry about if the homework's being done or the schoolwork is being done. That's not your role as the mentor. So I think that these responses are just a good opportunity for me to remind mentors of that. Of our middle school and high school students that responded to our survey, 94% enjoyed having their mentor. And I guarantee you, if I asked or polled right now any of our middle school and high school mentors if they felt that their student enjoyed having them, that number might be different. Just dealing with teenagers and kids of that nature, they're not always the most effusive when it comes to showing their appreciation or giving you feedback. When they're a little bit younger, it's kind of more warm and fuzzy, but the middle schoolers, like to be a little cool, so to speak. So, but when surveyed, they definitely enjoy having the mentor, and it is such a critical time, and it certainly can be full of ups and downs, particularly at the middle school level. So, I really encourage mentors of students in those grades. So if you have a sixth grader and you're just transitioning up for the first time mentoring a middle schooler, or if you've been mentoring middle school and high schoolers for a long time, just it is slow and steady wins the race, and just really that consistency and you showing up really is key for this particular age group. 81% want to continue with their mentors, and when asked in what ways did your mentor help you this past school year, the responses were they were a supportive friend, listened to my problems and gave me good advice, and provided me with encouragement. So this shows really how the relationships segue, right? So you're in elementary level, you might be playing a game or reading a book or engaging into an activity, but as the student grows and your relationship develops, those interactions have deeper meaning and opportunities for guidance and encouragement. So quickly, I'm just going to go over just some reminders in terms of some of the logistics involved with mentoring and some reminders of what our policies are. So logistics. At the time of mentor training, you received a badge that indicates that you are a DSABC mentor. We ask that mentors wear their badges to go mentor. It clearly identifies you in the building as a DSABC mentor, and they know that you're there for a purpose. If you've lost or misplaced your badge and are in need of a replacement, please email me and I'll be sure to send a new badge out to the school that you're assigned. As far as sign-in, we just, again, remind you to sign in at the mentor log every time you go. This is how us here at the program, as well as the school liaisons, can keep track of which mentors are showing up on a regular basis. For, as most of you know, your particularly as we get into the older grades, the liaisons don't necessarily see you week over week. So that's just one way that we can help keep track. Space to mentor. This is always a recurring issue. The Danbury Public Schools is faced with unprecedented number of students in the buildings. We now are a school population of close to 11,000 pupils. So this translates to limited space. So the school liaisons have been requested to notify mentors of space that is available for them to go to. The space may change. One space that's available on Monday may not be available on Tuesday, but we are trying to mitigate any issues in terms of mentors having to wander around the school building looking for a place to meet. If you're finding that that is an issue, just please notify me as soon as possible, and I will work that out with the school to make sure that you have space to meet. Call ahead. I just think it's a good habit for mentors to call ahead to make sure the child's in attendance. As you know, many of our liaisons are counselors who are, providing counseling services to the students and may not have the time in their day to think to call you, the mentor, that the student is out absent. So just to eliminate your own frustration, just call the school ahead, and I advise to call the main office and speak with the secretary, not that school liaison, as they may not be able to take your call right away. Along those lines, please refer to the Danbury Public School calendar. I did send this out in an electronic communication at the beginning of the year, a couple weeks ago. You can also find it on our website, dsabcmentors.org, as well as the Danbury Public School website. There certainly will be weird days off, just like this coming Friday, a week from today will be off for professional development. That wouldn't necessarily be on your radar screen. So again, refer to the calendar before you go out to mentor. And finally, please, please, please address any issues you have early. Address them directly with the school. Please notify me if you're having any issues. I can't tell you how disheartening it is when we receive year-end surveys, and it's only at that point in the school year where I learned that the mentor wasn't meeting, or there were, frustrations or questions about their role as mentor. Any questions that come up, we can address them early and often. So I cannot stress that point enough to, we're DSABC and the schools really want to set you up for success. So don't be shy about asking a question. There's no question that we can't entertain or be happy to support you with. Quickly, what are our policies? Everyone should know and follow the policy that we are a school-based mentoring program. That means that all mentoring takes place on school grounds during the course of the school year and the school day. You are not covered under any liability outside for any interactions that you're having with the student outside of school. So it's to everyone's best interest, the student and the mentors, that we abide by the policy, really for everybody's safety. Gift giving. DSABC prefers that the mentors do not give gifts to the students. And we went over this during mentor training, but there's several reasons for that. However, if you do feel like you want to give a gift one time a year, and $15 or less would be appropriate giving level. If there's any questions about that, I'm happy to entertain that as well. Electronic communications, please don't, you should not be emailing or texting your mentees. You should not be taking selfies on the cell phones, all that stuff. The exception is high schoolers. So mentors of high schoolers can engage in electronic communication with their mentees for the purposes of scheduling only. So that is our caveat to that. They are becoming young adults. It is the society that we're living in, so there's really no controlling that access to the electronic communication, but these are the policies that we want the mentors to adhere to keep it relative to the mentoring program. Social media, again, just use good common sense when it comes to the social media, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, Snapchat, all that stuff that's out there that we can't keep up with. Please do not friend your mentee on Facebook. Again, this is really just a safety and a liability issue in terms of privacy and confidentiality. Food, this is not a DSABC policy. It is a Danbury Public School Board of Education policy. No outside food can be brought in to the schools for allergy purposes, reasons, and health reasons. So I know for some mentors, they used to bring in treats or snacks or whatever for their mentees. I think a really good way around that and the gift giving is really to bring maybe activities that the student likes, or books, or if the student likes to play, a certain game like Apples to Apples, for example, maybe bring that activity in, and that's something special you guys can do together, and then you bring it back with you and bring, maybe a variety of activities every once in a while around the student's needs or interests. I think that's a great way to show that you have the students' interest in mind, and a great positive way to interact. So we're going to talk a little bit about what your role is as a mentor and what your role is not. So I know when we went into mentor training, we kind of went into this in great depth. So I'm just going to touch upon higher level now, because I do know that you guys have been mentoring for a while and have a good understanding of what your role is. But it's always a good reminder as we start the school year. So we're going to start with what a mentor is. So a mentor is a responsible and caring friend. A mentor is a role model, a patient listener, an advocate, a nurturer of possibilities, and a trusting adult. What is a mentor not? A mentor is not a counselor or social worker. So although we know this, sometimes it's hard to not fall into that role, or in terms of wanting to know more information on what's happening with your student, or engaging in the levels that are kind of outside the boundaries of the mentoring relationship. You just have to always remember that the counselors or social workers are trained professionals, and they can handle situations where maybe a child's emotional well-being is a little vulnerable at a time, at a particular moment in time. That's their role. Your role is really just to be their friend. It's not to be a counselor or social worker. You're not a parent or guardian. Um, Again, this is sometimes a tricky um, dance to play if you are a mentor who also happens to be a parent. Sometimes that's a fine line, and sometimes those lines get blurred. But you are not a parent. You do not need to take responsibility for that child's success in school, for example. Again, you really are a friend and a positive role model. So, oh, so take that, burden off yourself and just enjoy. And I see that we have a question, so I'm sorry I didn't see that sooner. I'm having a hard time getting to that question. I'm sorry for the interruption. Ellen, I'm not seeing Jen's question. I don't know if you can help me with that. Nothing new? Okay. 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 I'm sorry about that. A mentor is also not a disciplinarian. So sort of along those same lines as you're not a parent or guardian, you're also not a disciplinarian. So while it's important to model um, behavior and as important as it is, you certainly don't want to tolerate any disrespect or anything like that from the student, but it's also not your role to discipline them or make judgments towards them, I think is probably a better way of saying that. You are not a party planner or a gift giver, and you're not a savior. Sometimes I think mentors go into mentoring thinking, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to fix all the problems that this child may have in their life. Again, don't put that burden on yourself. You're one of many, many supports, and you're a critical part of a team who are supporting this student. But so going back quickly to what a mentor is. A mentor is a trusting adult. So we're going to talk a little bit about confidentiality and how we handle the confidentiality issues or questions. So as we've gone over in mentor training, I'm just going to rate it. I view the confidentiality in two buckets. So there's you as a mentor have responsibilities around confidentiality, and the school has legal implications around confidentiality. So we're going to start with mentor. Again, you never know who is listening to you tell someone about the student that you mentor. So although we want you to share your experiences because truly our best source of new mentors are existing mentors, and that is very true. To have a mentor who is so excited about mentoring, has been mentoring a long time. She's kind of taken it upon herself to be an ambassador for DSABC and is actually going to go to the community and go to community groups and organizations to help us recruit and advocate on our behalf. So yes, please tell those who you think would make good mentors about your experience. But just please keep the student's information confidential. Again, it goes back to that trust, and you don't really want to violate that trust that the child has placed in you. And that includes talking in great detail with other school staff about the student or their family in open spaces. We have had situations, and I have gotten complaints and feedbacks from school personnel that mentors have been discussing their mentees with other school staff besides the school liaison or the teacher, and in public spaces. This is not okay. Just because somebody works for the school does not necessarily mean that they know or are privy about what's happening in that particular student's life or any issues that they may be having. So always your first line of defense in terms of, if you're feeling that you need to discuss with your student, really need to go to that school liaison or the teacher or the principal and to a private setting. The bottom line is you really absolutely want to maintain the trust that you're building up in the relationship. It is about that one-on-one, so you want to maintain that and not break that in any way. In terms of school confidentiality, and I know that I've brought this up in training and it needs to come up from time to time. These are issues that come up fairly frequently. Mentors want to know more information. It certainly can happen as the relationship develops. And it's unusual to feel frustrated or confused about, maybe a situation that's happening with your student or a question you may have. And mentors can sometimes feel slighted by the school if they're not provided adequate information or answers to the questions. Usually this is because school personnel must abide by FERPA laws. So it's Federal Education Right to Privacy Act, and all these bulleted items fall under that. I think that's happening in education, their test grades, any medical diagnoses, or any situations happening in their home life. Those are all protected by FERPA laws. So the school is not being difficult if you're not getting the information. You may get some information anecdotally. You may get more information from one school staff versus another, because some of them have varying interpretations of the FERPA laws. Just know that if you're really pushing for this information and you don't receive it, it's just a good reminder to you that it's, again, not that they're not being supportive, they just cannot by law share certain pieces of information. Before I go forward, I just want to know, are there any questions about that, any situations that anyone has had that have any questions about or need any support or further information on? Okay. So again, I'm just going to, I know that a lot of this was in training originally, but I think it is always good to have a refresher, and particularly with this topic. So when do we break the confidentiality? So we break the confidentiality if the student is saying anything to you that indicates that they are harm to themselves or others, if you suspect that they're a victim of any kind of abuse, if you suspect that they or their family members or friends are involved in criminal, illegal activity. So these are kind of the big reasons when you would break that confidentiality. Now I want to go over who is a mandated reporter and who's not. What I mean by mandated reporter is who is legally required to report suspected abuse of a child. You as a mentor are not. In the state of Connecticut, it's mandated reporters or any paid individuals who are working with children. With that said, anybody can report suspected abuse. You're just not required to as a volunteer mentor. School personnel, however, are to everybody in the schools, because everybody in the school needs to work with children. So that's everyone, the lunch lady right on to the building administrator, the principals. So as you were advised in mentor training, and good reminder, if anything comes up that just isn't setting well with you in terms of anything that your child is saying to you, just bring that to the attention of somebody in the school. Whether that's the school liaison, the school nurse, the teacher, whoever you feel comfortable with. Don't feel funny about that. I always say it's best to err on the side of caution rather than kind of ignore it. Also keep in mind that sometimes kids like to exaggerate. Also never assume that that's the case either. So that's broadly how you should handle anything that should come up that could be of concern. 9 times out of 10, the school could only be aware of it, but also don't make that assumption. But also now, keep in mind, in accordance to those FERPA laws, that once you let the school know, they cannot tell you what steps have been taken after that. So just keep that in mind, in that you may be inclined to want to know more information, as would human nature be, particularly if you're vested in the health of the child, um, but just cannot. So before we move on, are there any questions about that or concerns? Okay, we'll move on. So what stage is your relationship at? So this is the question I just want you to think about for a minute. We're going to do a poll in just a second. Um, so every mentoring match, just like pretty much any relationship, right, has a life cycle. And in each stage of the relationship, you may be experiencing different feelings, a different approach, maybe getting different feedback from your students. So I just would like to do a quick poll and just ask you to indicate um, how many years you've been with your mentee. Okay. Okay, thank you. So it looks like we have a 50-50 split. So it looks like half of our attendees have been with their mentees for a year or less, and the rest of our attendees have been in their relationships between 1 to 5 years. And again, we're just reiterating that this is how long you've been in your existing match. I know that we have mentors who've mentored several years, but we're really looking to discuss the match, so more so than the time that you've been mentoring in the program. So most of our mentors for our discussion today are either in that beginning stage or in that building stage. So there are 4 stages in the life cycle: the beginning, the building, the testing, and the transition. Things get a little challenging somewhere in that building and testing phase. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, touch upon each of the phases, but I'll spend a little bit more time in detail with kind of what to expect in that beginning and building phase. So in the beginning of your relationship, it's exactly as it sounds. It's the beginning of the relationship. And just like any other relationship, there is that getting to know you period. So for mentors and for the students alike, you may feel a little awkward at times. You really don't know each other yet, so there may be some, periods of either silence or awkward questioning or whatever. So that's normal. So that could be what that feels like in the beginning. You're getting to know each other at this point. You're exploring similar interests from which to build your relationship on forward. At this point, you can also discuss expectations of the relationship. And expectations, I mean, keep it simple. I expect this, to see you every week at Tuesday at lunchtime. You're kind of outline the rules of engagement for lack of a better term. And you're setting some parameters around the match. When to meet, what activities do you think you want to engage in, etc. So in this phase, there are some common pitfalls that mentors could fall into. So these are just things to keep in mind, particularly if you started mentoring maybe the middle of last year and are re-amping up this year with your match, because we did a big break, so that was a long period of time. So it is almost like getting to know you again all over again. So some of the pitfalls that the adults can make are, you as the mentor might want to make a decision. You're used to calling shots. Maybe the child's a little shy or reserved, so you kind of feel like you need to make decisions in terms of what activities you're going to engage in, or where are we going to meet, or any of that. You may also start missing meetings, and that may not be communicated effectively to the student. So then the student may not be building that trust if you're inconsistent when you're showing up. The adults can also sometimes misinterpret the responses from the mentees. So in other words, if you don't really know the student that well, and every time you meet with the child doesn't talk a lot, sometimes the adults can misinterpret that as, oh, he doesn't want to spend time with me. When indeed the child does want to spend time with you. If the child's showing up, they want to spend time with you. They're just getting to know you. They may have had a lot of adults in their lives who let them down. So it just takes time to build that trust. And it's really important as a mentor to not take some of those nonverbals personally or to misinterpret them. It's fine to touch base with the school liaison to kind of gauge, where things are going. And you may expect too much too soon. It goes back to that point. You're not safe here, so it is slow and steady wins the race in the mentoring game. So mentors can sometimes can just get frustrated because we're 6 meetings into it and she's still not talking. I thought things would be more easy now. You kind of just have to let go of the expectations, not expect too much too early. So in the building phase, once we kind of get past that getting to know you, in the building phase, which I think a lot of you are if you're in that 1 to 5 year phase, this is where a lot of the work gets done or gets accomplished. So, this is usually a little bit easier. It often will feel like, you're learning more about each other, really enjoying each other's company, really opening up. Your mentee may feel more comfortable sharing information with you, and for the most part, that feels great in terms of, it's sharing information to help build trust. You have established routines at that point, and you're ready to help your mentee set some goals. And I see that we have a question, so let me ask that. Oh, okay, sorry. I see that the audio is cutting in and out. I will try to, looks like I'm experiencing some network connections. So hopefully we can resolve our technical issues. Okay. So that's some of the things you may be feeling as a mentor in that building phase. So what are some of the common pitfalls that can happen in this phase? You can find sometimes the student may start becoming too dependent on you, really looking for you to kind of problem solve everything for them. They likely will want to see you outside of school. They may beg you to, why can't I see you over the summer? Come to my baseball game. They really may start relying on you, becoming very dependent upon you. So these are just something that you need to be mindful of. If a situation like that comes up, that's the time to remind the student, I love spending time with you too, Johnny. Our friendship is here at school, and that's where we'll spend our time. So let's think about things that we can do, here while we're in school. And I'm here for you every Tuesday at lunchtime, or whatever the case may be. You as the adult, have to always be setting those boundaries and reminding the student. Mentors can also typically be overwhelmed by the problems or the circumstances faced by the mentee in this phase. And this is a situation that I see in my role in working with mentors, is that as the child becomes more comfortable with you and really is trusting you, you know, they may be sharing more information about their home life or, you know, any academic struggles that they're having or whatever the case may be. And it's fairly typical for mentors to become overwhelmed. And that can result in a couple of things. One, it can result in early termination of the mentoring, where it's just too much for a mentor to handle, so they will just stop showing up, which we obviously don't want that to happen. Or it can be that mentors can overstep their boundaries. So they're, you know, become engaged with, you know, the student outside of school. They may get involved with the family or the family circumstances outside of school. They may push the school for school personnel for more information about what's happening with the student. It may be that they're not trusting that the school is doing the right thing in terms of the safety of the student, and, you know, will try to interfere with some of the school policies and procedures. You know, all very well-intended and normal feelings. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or kind of, you know, oh my gosh, I need to fix this for the student, you need to kind of just check in with yourself and, you know, come to me or come to your school liaison to, you know, kind of get you back on track and support. You know, I always say to mentors, let's bring the conversation back down to what we can do within the boundaries of the 1 hour or less a week at school. Also, to that end, mentors can also feel the flip side, feel unappreciated in this phase. That the mentee is taking them for granted. Maybe the trust has been built up and the kid might just stop showing up. We're just expecting you to be there. Sort of like parents, teenagers, you may start feeling unappreciated. So these are just some common pitfalls and things to think of as you start the school year. And although most of our attendees are not quite at the testing phase, I will speak to it briefly. So the testing phase may be the student's really comfortable. Now they want to test the boundaries. They want to test your commitment to them. So they may start telling you shocking stories, certainly as the students, you know, go from elementary school to adolescence in middle school. You know, they may, you know, have a little bit of an attitude, you know, just kind of all the typical behaviors that you expect in any kind of testing the boundaries, so to speak. And for mentors, it can feel very confusing and very frustrating. What happened? We had such a great relationship. Oh, she was always so happy to play Chutes and Ladders with me, you know, last year. This year, you know, she wants to talk about Taylor Swift and makeup, you know, and this is not mentoring. So it can be very frustrating and confusing. Mentors can just be less interested in continuing a relationship. It's just frustrating. I don't really want to do this anymore. Or they take it personally. They take the shift of the behavior very personally, and it really has nothing to do with them as a mentor personally at all. As a matter of fact, you know, a lot of our middle schoolers, sometimes they won't show up for the meetings or they seem indifferent, and the mentors at this age group can sometimes just really be heartbroken because they've established such a good relationship with the student, and like all of a sudden the kid wants to be with their friends or, you know, don't seem quite as excited to see the mentor. However, when speaking to the social worker, she'll call the students in, and the student will, you know, say something to the effect of, well, why are you asking me if I want to continue seeing my mentor? Of course I want to see my mentor. So, you know, it's really important just to keep that these are normal phases in the life cycle. And finally, the the final stage is that transition stage. So transition can happen in lots of ways. It can happen through a job loss, and if you have to take a new job out of the area and you can't continue mentoring, that's, transitioning or ending the relationship. Some of the relationships end organically. So, for example, I have a freshman in high school who no longer wants to continue in the program. It's not because she didn't love her mentor or value her mentor. The reason why she was referred to a mentor back in 3rd grade is that she needed the mentor to help her work on some of her social skills and making friends. Well, in speaking with the social worker at the middle school, the young lady now has lots of friends and is doing well socially. So although I think the mentor would have loved to have continued meeting with the student, that relationship just came, they've met their goal, and that just kind of ended organically. We've had several students who have transferred out of the school district as well. So there's lots of reasons why the mentor-mentee match ends. Some are, some situations are good situations, and other situations are not so happy. For example, if a student's been removed from the home through DCF and is out of the district, those kinds of reasons are not happy reasons. So during that transition phase, to the extent that we can, we will always try to encourage some kind of closure meeting. So, for the example of where the relationship kind of just ending organically, we will try to, facilitate some kind of final meeting. Just, hey, it was great being your friend. I'm always here for you. I'm glad you're doing well, that kind of thing. Or if a mentor, can't continue because of personal circumstances in their own life, I just cannot reiterate enough how critical it is that you let the program know, so you let DSABC know, and you let the school know. So there could be some proper closure around the relationship for the child. Just not showing up anymore is really not okay, because that really can open up a lot of wounds and really can do more harm to the student than any goals that you may have met along the way. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know you guys aren't there yet. And then we also have just national transitions when our students graduate high school and they receive their DSABC scholarship and then they move on. But that's a natural and that's a positive transition. And many of our mentors and graduates do continue relationships on into adulthood, which is really just a wonderful and beautiful experience that I hope for all of you. So that's just some things to think about and chew on as we begin the new year. Do you have any questions about that, concerns, or has anyone experienced any of these situations that they want to share with others? So before we end today, here are just some quick tips for getting the help that you need. And again, I know I brought this point up early. I cannot bring it up often enough. Please, 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 any help or questions or support or issues or concerns that you are having at any point during the school year, please bring them to light. Please let me know, let the school know. We are here to support you and your student because we really want these kids to get the support that they benefit so much from your relationship with them and the time that you're giving them. We really want to support you to make it as successful as possible. So here are some tips. Attend and participate in our workshops and webinars. I do have a couple already scheduled. Topics identified and speakers identified for the school year. So our next one would probably be somewhere around November with the school social worker at King Street Primary School. She was for many years the social worker also at Rogers Park Middle School. So she has quite an array of experience, professional experience working with students of all ages, and so she has some information that she would like to share with mentors to help develop your mentoring skills and provide you support. And we also are looking to work in partnership with the Housatonic Valley Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse to talk about attributes, youth attributes, and how adults can help develop these attributes to help make students successful. So Allison Fulton will be presenting some information on that. In January, we do hope to have a live workshop like we did last year for Mentor Month, where we had a wonderful luncheon and a wonderful speaker. We probably had about 30 mentors attend, so really it's great to have an opportunity for mentors to learn from each other. And I would like to also implement a luncheon kind of informal get-together for some of our independent mentors. I know our mentors who come from the community large and are affiliated with a company sometimes can be a little isolating, so I would like to have an opportunity for those mentors to get together to just to kind of share experiences and support one another. So keep a lookout for those. We also have our webinars posted to our website, so anytime you can go back and refer to them there. We keep them archived. Please reach out for any ideas or suggestions or support from other mentors. It's very rare that anything that you're experiencing is unique to you. Many mentors have been there and done that, so they can often be a wonderful, wonderful resource for support with any questions you may have. Actively participate in the check-in follow-ups that we do here at DSABC, particularly for new mentors. We try to actively reach out. Please participate in our year-end surveys, because we do take those survey responses to heart, and we do try to improve the program to the best of our abilities based on your feedback. And really educate yourself about what issues that face your mentee. So we have lots of resources available. We have links to various websites about mentoring and any other issues that may come up. They're on our website, and those are great resources as well. And when in doubt, always ask for help. We will do the best that we can to support you and to provide the information that you need, again, to be successful. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has, or if anyone has a comment that they'd like to share. Well, thank you so much for participating in our back to school webinar. I wish you all a very successful school year. You should be hearing from your liaisons in the next week or two. Be patient with the disruption in the schedule because of holidays and professional development days, but we should be in full swing before the end of the month. Again, please feel free to contact me with any questions, but I wish you all the best. And I do know, just so you guys know, that your students are anxiously awaiting for you to show up. I have had all the liaisons said to me as soon as the first day of school that the kids are looking for my mentor coming this year. So they're ready for you. You're ready for them. So I wish you all the best and have a great year.